Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Agents Training webinar this morning. We have Neil Dobbs and Ollie Dobbs from Travel Gallery, and we're going to talk about Sri Lanka and the Maldives. So for the next 40 minutes, we're going to imagine we are submerged by sunshine and glorious, wonderful weather. And after their presentation, they will open the floor to any questions you wish. Ask them anything you wish, about COVID policy, about itineraries, where to go. And then we will have Africa and beyond after their presentation. So sit back and enjoy this wonderful tour operator. Neil and Ollie, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Ollie and I discussed how we're going to do this, and whilst Ollie would normally do most of the sales presentations, as he's been on furlough and he's now back on flexible furlough, and I've been holding the fort with the presentations for the past 12 months, I decided I would do the presentation today, and then Ollie can pick up the reins from here on in. Good morning. We're going to talk about Boutique Sri Lanka. This is the fourth, I think the third in our series with ATO, and probably the fifth training that we've done, with a couple done outside of ATO. We've done Sri Lanka summer and winter routines. We've done Maldives barefoot luxury. We've done affordable Maldives, and today we decided we'd have a look at Boutique Sri Lanka, and then actually really have a discussion about Maldives competing against online discounters. And I'm not going to say anything today which is going to be, wow, never heard that before, but I'm just going to talk about how we've been actually approaching online discounting and competing against online discounters for the last 3 or 4 months. And I think it's going to be very relevant as we come out of lockdown. So when we get on to that, I'm very happy to take questions as you go along. If you want to interrupt, just unmute yourself, take a question at that point if there's something you really want to pick up on. So let's start off with Sri Lanka, about 10 minutes on Sri Lanka, about 20 minutes on the Maldives, and then that'll leave us a few minutes for questions at the end. So moving on, he says, and my screen is not moving on when I hit. Okay, let's do it that way. Right, so let's just start off. You'll be familiar, those of you that have been on my previous sessions, about having a chart with Maldives, Seychelles, Mauritius and others on it. I've taken Mauritius and Seychelles off. We all know they're not for sale at the moment, simply because of they're on the red list of countries. The Maldives and Sri Lanka definitely still remains open for sale. So these comments are really about once we go back to a situation where the UK government allows people to travel overseas. God knows when that's going to be, but hopefully we find out on the 22nd. In my opinion, the Maldives go straight back on sale and is open for international travel. Now, whether people still want to travel when they've got to come back and do multiple PCR tests, and whether they've got self-quarantine at home is another matter, but that may well become the new norm anyway. But as far as I'm concerned, Maldives is open for sale. Sri Lanka, on the other hand, has had a lot of publicity over recent weeks. It is for sale. People can travel to it today, although not from the UK. The UK is specifically banned at the moment, but I see that being lifted as the UK also comes out of the current situation. But it's not for the faint-hearted, in the sense that at the moment you have to have a PCR test prior to traveling, one on arrival, one after 5 days and one after 10 days. Your hotel or tour operator will take care of that. There's a restricted number of hotels that you can stay in. So in my opinion at the moment, and being realistic, Sri Lanka is not really open for business this side of June. We are hopeful that summer 2021 we'll be able to carry the people that we've got booked to go to Sri Lanka. Watch this space. Let's just start off with a very, very short video. And I'm not sure you can actually hear the sound on this. So one of the reasons for actually just showing that today, and I'm sorry the sound wasn't working, I don't think I've got the settings correct and didn't have time to adjust them, is we've got a number of these short videos which are from the tourist board. And if you would find it useful for social media, I think that's a particularly good one. Ollie can get those to you, and we could also work on perhaps putting some branding around them as well. So please contact Ollie, we'll be happy to do so. So just looking at Boutique Sri Lanka, we're currently not promoting summer 2021, although there is still some outstanding value. After the 22nd of February, we'll make a decision as to whether it's the right thing to do or not. But there's great value continuing for winter 21-22. We often combine Sri Lanka with the Maldives, and I'll come back onto that when we talk about the Maldives later. Some of those standard itineraries that we put out in the autumn last year, luxury for less and on a shoestring for 21, apply to the winter of 21-22 and into the summer of 22 as well. So there is absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be looking at those. And I'm pleased to say we're taking some good inquiries now for January through to the summer of 2022. What I want to just touch on today is a few of the hotels we tend to brush over normally. You know, when I'm doing these presentations, I'll always show you the fantastic value that we've got from the Uga hotels, the fantastic value perhaps from tea trails or some of the top boutiques on the beach. They still exist. They're still there. The offers are still there. But what we thought might be a good idea is to focus on a few hotels around the island which are actually offering some great value for money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend literally 5 minutes running through very quickly some boutique hotels, and hopefully you can see my pointer there, starting on the northwest near Yala. I'm then going to skip over to the east coast, to the south of Calacuda. You'll have heard me talk in the past about Pasikuda, where Uga Bay is, and many of the other 5-star properties in a resort-style complex. There are also some boutique hotels running down the coast here, and I'm going to talk about 3 properties here. I'm going to skip up into the high tea country and look at some tea country. I'm going to come down to Yala and then around the south coast very, very quickly with a few boutique properties. So I'm going to start off in the northwest, and I wanted to give you an idea of some of the properties here. Why do you go to this part of the country? Well, one of the reasons you go to this part of the country is you go for kite surfing, you go for dolphin watching, and you go for safari. So this property I'm showing here on the top left is Palagama Beach. Very simple property and unbelievably reasonably priced. We can get that property at around $100 a night. Stunning, simple, air-conditioned and non-air-conditioned accommodation. Below it is Bethany 101, which is a boutique property which is in a place called Putlam. We use that particularly for going for safari to the Wilpatu National Park. And on the right-hand side there, we've got one of the tents from one of the safari companies. I think that's from Leopard Trails, which can be set up in Wilpatu and in the Yala National Park. One thing to remember with Sri Lanka and with the tented camps, the true tented camps are just that. They are tents and they move. There are some hybrids, but none of them sit within the national parks. They're not allowed to actually be within the park itself. So starting up in the northwest, some lovely small boutique hotels to be matched with some great experiences. I'm not going to mention at all any of the cultural sites today or Sigiriya Rock Fortress, but of course we can tie those in with all of those properties. I'm then going to jump across to the East Coast. Now the East Coast has traditionally been the least developed area in Sri Lanka. 5-6 years ago, the resorts around Pasikuda were developed and they were only finished 3 or 4 years ago. To be honest, they've probably never had a decent season since we finished building those resorts on the east coast of Sri Lanka. With the bombs in 2019, with COVID in 2020, 2021, it's a good job most of them are owned with people with deep pockets, let's just say, because it's rumoured that the government officials who are now back in power seem to underlyingly own most of those hotels. So they will survive. But also on the East Coast, there is a small number of developing boutique hotels. Compared to the rest of the island, very little. From the top right there is Galloway Lodge. Very simple, non-air conditioned accommodation, but a great lodge experience for the Galloway National Park. The bottom left is Karpa Hassan's. Karpa Hassan's and the bottom right is a semi-tented camp development, which is great value for money. Compared to what you would pay for this standard of accommodation in some other parts of the world, we're looking at half the price. And the top left there is Aragon Bay. So why would you go over onto the East Coast? Why would you want to stay in some of these properties? The first thing is surfing. Surfing on the East Coast is some of the best surf spots anywhere in the world. Whoops, I'm sorry. I was trying to clear something off my screen. Some of the best surf spots in Aragon Bay at particular times of the year. So Aragon Bay for surfing. The beaches on the East Coast are beautiful. Near Carpa Sands, fantastic beach properties. And Galoya Lodge is famous for the swimming elephants. So you go to Galoya to go on a safari, but you go to see these elephants swimming in the man-made lake. Lakes in Sri Lanka are called tanks, and the tanks are man-made and date back hundreds of years. So East Coast, small boutique is possible. We would generally, though, not suggest any of these boutique hotels as the beach resort that you're going to stay in for the duration of your holiday. Let's move up to the high tea country and look at boutiques up here. I think people often associate the boutiques in Sri Lanka with Ceylon tea trails as being one of the properties that everybody kind of holds out as being one of the things to do. There is a wide variety and a wide price point as well of properties that have developed in the high tea country in recent years. And we feature all of these in our program in Sri Lanka, and between us, we've visited all of these. So top left is the view from Totalagala. Totalagala actually is priced at a very similar level to Ceylon tea trails. And sometimes I can question whether it's worthwhile, but for the right clients, it's definitely worthwhile. If somebody's looking for just very few activities, great views, good service, beautiful, huge rooms, the Totalagala certainly meets the requirements. The top right there is a view from one of the properties just outside of Ella, Nine Skies. On the left, Camilla Hills, which is very close to tea trails. And one of our firm favourites down the bottom is Stafford Bungalow. Now, the only reason we don't feature this in itineraries the whole time when people are staying in the Nurelia area is it's about 45 minutes outside of Nurelia. But as a property, absolutely beautiful, stepping back into colonial history and time. And you don't have to be paying $700–800 a night that you pay at Ceylon Tea Trails to get some of these experiences. And why do you go up here? The train, and I just wanted to comment at this point on the train and train journeys. At the moment, train journeys are not being allowed in Sri Lanka for tourists. And to be honest, I don't see that coming back into play until we get into 2022. I think for 2021, it's unlikely that tourists will be allowed to use public transport. Horton Plains is a fantastic walk from Nurelia. It's about an 8 or 9 kilometer walk up at 7,000 feet. You go through areas of cloud forest, you walk down and you come to this sheer drop, which is the top right-hand image, which clearly you can get quite a few tourists at, but that drops down 3,000 feet, and it's known as a World's End. Unbelievable views on a great day. And also in Ella now, and I think Ella is one of those interesting places where great for younger people, great for people with teenage children, certainly to be recommended if you've got teenage children, because they've got a zip wire there now, which is very professionally put in and works very well as one of the activities to put in to keep children engaged during the trip around the tea country. So the other property, of course, to mention is the Rosyth Estate House. I can't go through a property without mentioning our own property, which is nestled in the trees there with the rock villa, and you see the views. But what I wanted to do here is just illustrate a couple of other things. You don't actually have to go to the high tea country to do some mild trekking. And the picture taken the top left there is Bible Rock, which is a fantastic hike. And the views from Bible Rock are absolutely stunning. That's about 30 minutes from our property. Cooking lessons, very, very developing. I have to say we've run cooking classes at Rosyth now for about 6 years and super popular. But we can also arrange that in other locations around the island as well. So matching experiences with locations, with families is what we do. Matching boutique properties and bigger properties is also kind of core of the program. Let's come down to the south coast and to Yala. If you remember, I said we'll look at Yala National Park and then come around the south. In Yala, I've just illustrated 3 properties there. Chenna Huts, the top right is Flameback Eco Lodge and the bottom right is Leopard Trails. $1,000, bottom right, $600-700, top right, $300 a night. So there are price points at different places within offering similar experiences, whether it be for Yala National Park or Udawalawa National Park. Let's just come on and also look about the other things there. Why are we going down there? It's wildlife. And finally, let's just have a look at the boutiques on the south coast. So here I've just pulled out 4 boutique properties here. A Villa Saffron in Hikkaduwa, top left, 5 rooms, beautiful. Sri Sharavi, a 14-room property, top right in Marissa, where we have outstanding reviews. Bottom right, just along the beach from Sri Sharavi, is Parrotfish Bay, actually owned by Fazana's cousin. Great value for money, 6-bedroom property. And the beach house in Marissa, bottom left, is trendy. Those 3 properties, with the exception of the top left-hand one, are all within 2 or 3 miles on the beach. They offer different, some are more remote, some are more in the center, some are closer to the road, but great variety of boutique properties, all within our portfolio. Why would we come down to this part of the coast from an experience point of view? Whale watching, certainly something to be done. Season, just to remind you, is from December through to the middle of April. We wouldn't recommend because it's very rough outside of that season to go whale watching. Stilt fishermen, but also visiting Gaul. Now, some people say, well, why don't you stay in Gaul? And I've illustrated 2 boutique hotels here in Gaul. We've got Fort Printers and we've got the Fort Bazaar. But Gaul is a World Heritage Fort, fantastic opportunity to go to explore around the walking tours of the fort. But at the same time, you might want to do a paddy field cycling tour with idle bikes, which is done just outside of Gaul. Again, a great experience. Finally, in Sri Lanka, boutique hotels in Colombo. The left is Maniampathy in the middle of Colombo. The right is the Walawa, which is close to the airport, which you may have come across before. Frankly now, I think staying near the airport's not that important. There's a motorway connects Colombo and the airport, so they're 45 minutes apart. So you can stay at a beautiful boutique hotel in Colombo. Why would you go? Well, Colombo is a developing city. You've got the old beautiful colonial architecture. There's the town hall on the right and Cargill's building in the middle of the city on the bottom right. But at the same time, you've got world-class buildings being built, like Altair, the Leaning Tower building, which is opening this month. And you can therefore combine a 2 or 3 night stay, or 2 nights, I would say, a maximum actually in Colombo for shopping and a great restaurant scene. So definitely worth exploring that as well. Fine. So, sorry, Ollie, what were you going to say?
Tuk-tuk tours, did you mention?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, absolutely. And tuk-tuk tours there, we could arrange a tuk-tuk tour around Colombo or indeed a cycling tour by night. So there's some very good experiences to be combined and a great place to end up a holiday in Sri Lanka. Right, so moving on, I want to move on to the Maldives, affordable Maldives, competing against online operators. I'm going to take you through some hotels, which I'm going to propose in a minute, but I want to just talk with a couple of wordy charts, and please feel free to dig in and ask any questions at this point if you want. The first thing is airlines. So what I thought is, if I'm going to talk about the Maldives today, what can I talk about which is slightly different? And the one thing that I would say more than anything else since the Maldives went back on sale in October is I found travel agents ringing me up and saying, I've been contacted by this client. I know they've been looking online. I know I've looked online and I can see some very aggressive pricing. So I just thought I'd put a few things down, which I think can help when selling against a client that is going to, is going to go and check online. And let's face it, Maldives only is a very easy holiday to book yourself online. So the first thing is direct in the winter season versus indirect flights. The British Airways direct flight starts from the end of October, will run through to Easter next year. Sri Lanka, we're not sure whether they will operate a direct flight for this coming season. They put on special direct flights for the 2020-21 season. Whether they'll do it for 21-22, we don't yet know. We'll know in a couple of weeks' time. The Middle Eastern airlines and this is across the board, are generally a minimum of £125 per person cheaper. They can easily be a couple of £100 cheaper than British Airways. The next thing to note and to sell on this basis is they also allow you to gain a day in the Maldives. Quite a few of the Middle Eastern flights get in between 6:30 and 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, as opposed to the British Airways flight, which is getting in mid-morning. It's getting in around lunchtime, and which is leaving at 11 in the morning. The Middle Eastern airlines allow you to get into the resort in the morning, and quite a few, both Qatar Airways, Etihad, Emirates, all have evening flights out, meaning that you don't need to leave until about 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the evening, giving you extra time in the Maldives. The second thing is the Middle Eastern airlines and indirect airlines, Sri Lankan, allow you to combine with Sri Lanka or to combine with Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Very importantly, it means you're not competing against British Airways holidays. We find British Airways holidays some of the most aggressive pricing for the Maldives. And the moment you're using a BA flight, the comparison is if a client goes on to BA holidays, they will probably beat the pricing that you can offer them. Last thing just to say is we are avoiding short stopovers in 2021. It requires multiple COVID tests and complexity, which I think is worth advising your clients to avoid. The second thing is competing against online operators. We are working with some of the less well-known hotels and brands. That gives less visibility online. We have got direct contracts for the core hotels in our program, which means that rates which we've got are exactly the same as anyone else in the marketplace. We should not be beaten on rates. We have access to all the hotels in the market, just like everybody else does. But combined with strong product knowledge and providing we've got the up-to-date promotional campaigns, it can make a very big difference on price. I priced an itinerary a couple of weeks ago and we came in some 35% cheaper than a competitive quote. And that was simply because we've got the contract, we've got the latest offers, and we make sure we apply those. The Maldivian hotels, the last point I just want to make on here, there is an issue with the Maldivian hotels. They're starting to feel a lot more positive about the season 21-22. And I guess we should take some confidence out of this. But as a result of that, be careful when talking to clients because special offers are being cut back. For example, Lux South Ariatel, you'll have seen, and we've talked before about the fact there's a 50% discount off their bed and breakfast rates, which was running until the 5th of January next year. It's been cut now and it ends on the 31st of October. Because they've obviously got a confidence that November and December at the moment looks like it's going to be very busy. And judging by how many holidays we've pushed back into November, I think their order books for November must be looking very positive at the moment. The other thing is when we're seeing the rates for next year come out, they are typically 15 to 20% higher than they were for November 20, because November 20 often had some special rates in play, and they've removed those as we've come in. That could all change, of course it could, and if the lockdown continues, but I think we do need to remember we're not the only market selling into the Maldives. You've got plenty of other markets that are still delivering clients and don't have the same restrictions on traveling that the UK does at the moment. The other thing about selling against the online operators, and then I'll come on to just look at a couple of featured hotels. Flexibility with margin. I hate to say this because we've been in this business as a business for 30 plus years now, and we're not a discounting business, but the Maldives is a cutthroat business. We need to have a flexible approach on margin. We will discuss that with you and we will advise you where we think we might need to be based on some of the quotes that we've seen. We'll also advise you and your clients of ticketing deadlines and payment deadlines. I think the key to selling holidays at the moment is maintaining flexibility, and our commitment is to be transparent with you about that and to make sure we give you everything you can to sell a holiday to a client and to sell against the online operators who are not operating necessarily with the same level of transparency and flexibility. We take a deposit, it's lower than it used to be. We're not into giving £50 deposits. We don't think that's positive for anybody, but equally as well, we think it's more appropriate to have lower deposits than we perhaps traditionally had on touring holidays. We've got later balance collection dates, and we've got a flexibility to cancel, postpone with our commitment. And I'll just show you that right at the end. We have a no quibble refund policy. Most holidays have postponed, but anybody who's asked for a refund during the current lockdown has had that refund processed already. We have not issued a single refund credit note through this period. The other thing to think about, if you're selling and you're talking to a client, very price conscious, often we're talking about people wanting to travel in the first 2 weeks of November. Why not consider the last week of October? I know there is more risk with the weather in October than there is in November, but properties are typically about 20% cheaper in the last week of October versus the first week of November. And finally, combined with Sri Lanka. Difficult to price online if you're bundling the two locations. It's going to be much more problematical for your client to go straight on and do a like-for-like comparison. So let me talk to you now about a couple of featured properties, and I'm going to move through these quite quickly. The first one is Furaveri Island Resort and Spa. I don't know how many of you heard about it. I visited this property 3 years ago, as you'll see right at the end. And this is, since then, it is almost doubled in size. This is a great, in my opinion, property to lead with at the moment with clients. The resort has a currently relatively low profile in the UK. It's not featured by a large number of online operators. It's 45-minute by seaplane. It's a 4-star property. And the good thing is it sells from bed and breakfast to all-inclusive. In this market, actually, too many properties almost are all-inclusive in the 4-star market, which means when you've got clients who say, well, we're not big drinkers, we actually really only prefer to have breakfast and dinner, then it's good to be able to have a property there where we can sell BB, half board, right the way through to all-inclusive. 167 rooms, so it's a medium to large size resort. Very large, a large island, well spread out, spacious accommodation. So let me just give you a flavour for this. So this property has gone through extensive refurbishment. It's an older property, but it's gone through extensive refurbishment. And as you can see, the size of these units are very large. These are the beach pool villas. But even the standard villas are over 100 square meters in space. The villas, the overwater villas, and a great spa complex. And if you just look on the right hand side of that image, I don't know whether it's actually cut it off, it's got a tennis court and it's got the facilities that you would expect on a slightly larger island. So Furaveri, one to just think about that I think is a great value for money property at the moment. 35% discount off the contract rate up till the end of October, 25% after that. Cinnamon Donavelli. I talked about this during the last presentation, so I'm not going to go back on about Cinnamon Donavelli, but I want to talk about Cinnamon Hakura Hura. So Cinnamon Hakura Hura, sister property, again, same chain, Cinnamon, which is a Sri Lankan chain. This property was extensively refurbished in 2019 and offers a very good, smart standard of 4-star accommodation, 40-minute by seaplane. The unusual thing with this property, and you can get a view of it from that image there, the vast majority of the accommodation on the island is over water. So the water bungalows are the entry-level rooms here. They do have some beach bungalows, but they're not sold on the UK contract. And then they have the Platinum Beach bungalows, which are on that second island that you can see up at the top there, which is connected by a walkway, which is an adult-only island. So again, two unique features here. Water bungalows as a leading category, the Platinum Beach bungalows slightly more expensive, adult only. Sold on an all-inclusive basis, excellent offers in addition to the contract. We've got 25% off the 2020 rates. Now, at some point, they will put their new rates out for 21-22, and we'll have to wait to see what happens with those rates. But we've got a very good, strong offer. So, you know, you arrive by seaplane. You can see by some of the images here that they've done a lot of work to refurbish this in 2019. That's the leading category room. So that is an overwater bungalow. I think that is very fresh. Now, of course, they are quite close together. They're not going to give you superb privacy versus some of the more expensive resorts. But for someone looking for an overwater experience, I think that's well worth looking at. The beach villas on the adult side of the island as well. Again, very, very nice. And again, giving a level of privacy and directly onto the beach. The adult-only pool on the adult island, again, a very, very crisp and good image there. And for me, a very good standard 4-star property. And for some reason, my screen is frozen. Sorry, excuse me 1 second. I have never had that before. Okay, sorry. Okay, so that is cinnamon hakura hura. I'm going to run very quickly through this one. Sun Siem Olivelli. I featured it last time, but I think it's worth coming back to it. A speedboat transfer immediately brings the cost down. This is a huge resort with nearly 300 rooms. But for somebody looking for a resort, and I hear this from time to time, quite often from people saying, we want a variety of restaurant, we want a variety of bars, we want a lively island, we want a kids club we can dump the kids in. I think Olivelli ticks a lot of those boxes. The entry-level rooms are still relatively basic, but from the second category up, they've been refurbished. The beach villas, I think, are very nice. They're very crisp. The decor is good in them. And the beach pool villas are outstandingly good value for money for families, because in this area here, you can close the first set of doors, close the second set of doors, and you have a second sleeping area for children. So that's Olivelli. The other property that I want to just mention to properties are the atmosphere properties. And again, we're going to go very, very quickly through this and finish this in the next 30 minutes. So the atmosphere, Sangeli, Atmosphere Varu, Kanefushi, and Ozone Madu. Let's just start off with Helengeli. Helengeli, for my mind, is the best value for money, 4-star all-inclusive property in the middle of this market. It is being featured by a lot of people, but we've got very competitive rates on it. That's the entry-level rooms. The entry-level water villa here has a pool. So if you're looking for a pool water villa in the 4-star market, for me, this is an exceptionally good opportunity. They also have the 2-bedroom pool villa, which is excellent and economical for use for children, where you want everybody in a private and interconnected environment. The second of their properties is Atmosphere Sangeli, which I'm just going to touch on. Sangeli, we've sold more room nights into Sangeli in the last month than we've sold into any of the other properties in the island. This is a very, very nice, smart resort. It opened in 2019. It is exceptionally spacious. It's good for adults. It's very good for foodies. And the reason I say that is they've got a simply vegetarian restaurant. They've got a couple of specialty dining restaurants, which are included in the all-inclusive package. You can dine in each of the restaurants once during a 7-day period, and you can pay a small supplement to eat in there more often. Contemporary design, entry-level 5-star, very, very good value for money. And as we talk about entry-level 5-star and value for money, Sun Siem Olivelli is also spot on in this marketplace. 125 suites, all have a private pool. And that's, again, a differentiating fact. The aggressive pricing that we saw in 2021 is continuing to 2020 is continuing into this year. Located in the South Mali Atoll, 35 minutes by seaplane, a dine-around program in place. This is definitely one for foodies, and they give additional discounts in the 60+ market as well. So this is definitely a very good value for money property, and that's the Sun Siem. Finally, Maldives 5-star luxury market. I've been touching on 4-star. I've been talking particularly about economy. Within our portfolio, we're very strong with the Locks properties, the Como properties, the Anantaras, Joalis, Ozone, and so it goes on. Just going back to what I said before, we've contracted directly with the hotels, and we've got a relationship with these hotels, which means we can deliver very good value for money for your clients. I'm not going to go through this, but plan ahead, book now, and travel with confidence. This is our latest policy. I can certainly send a copy of it to you. It builds into this, and we're happy to put this on every single one of our quotes. It builds in our commitments on flexibility and transparency with your clients, particularly around ticketing deadlines and booking, that allows you to then go and convince them that this is the right time to book a holiday. Now, last 2 slides. If you go onto the Furuveri website, you'll come across this picture on the front. And just to absolutely assure you, we do our research. This is one we took earlier. Now, when Fazana took that video of me 3 years ago in that hammock, she did not tell me she was going to put it all over social media. So those of you who follow Fazana
That
on
was
Facebook
quite
may
disturbing.
also know that that has had quite wide publicity. That's me finished. 2 or 3 minutes left to handle some questions. Fire away.
That was brilliant, Neil. Yes, thank you so much for that. What a lovely closing as well. At this point, Ollie and Neil are open to any of your questions. So please unmute yourself to fire away, or even put it in the chat. Don't be shy, they won't bite.
Any questions?
No
No?
questions?
Oh, wow.
No.
Comprehensive as always, Neil and Ollie, as I say.
Let me just go back on value for money in the Maldives. I mean, I think what I found is, you know your clients. We don't know your clients. And what you'll find as asking when you do come to us with an inquiry is around their price sensitivity. And I hate to talk about margin and cutting margins, but I think it is something we have to be prepared to be conscious of when we're looking at the Maldives market. And ultimately, you know, what we'll say to you is, if you've got, so do you have flexible booking conditions, refundable deposits? Julie, yeah, we do, which is what I was saying right at the end. Frankly, let's talk about deposits. I don't think it's in anyone's interest to take £50 deposits or 0 deposits, simply because the client can walk away with almost no commitment. Whereas we traditionally on Sri Lanka touring holidays took 20% deposits, we are taking now typically, I normally say, can we do £250 per person or 10% of the booking value? You know, let's be flexible on it. Family of 4 for a £16,000 holiday, we took £250 deposits recently, so we took £1,000. Enough that the client's on the hook. In terms of flexibility, we'll tell you when the ticketing deadline is. We won't do anything that's not on as flexible as possible ticketing deadline. So typically, let's just say that averages between 2 and 6 weeks before. We'll typically be 4. We'll share that with you at the time. It's up to you whether you share it with the client. We'll put it on the quote if you want us to put it on the quote. And what we'll say is we'll tailor the collection of the balance to fit with that ticketing deadline. So if the ticketing deadline is 4 weeks before, we'll collect the balance into us, let's say 4.5 to 5 weeks before. We recently, through the lockdown with British Airways flights, they went onto a 2-week ticketing deadline, and we slipped our deadlines to match that for balance collection. So client, and up to that point, you know, if they can't travel because of COVID, we'll refund the balance. We'll refund the deposit. The reality is most people say, no, let's keep those rates if we can. Let's push it out to November or to next February. So, you know, we get the client hooked in the first place. We can work jointly to try and hang on to that client. But ultimately, the client, they want their money back, they can have it back.
Very good. Anybody else? Okay.
I see some stuff in the chat and we'll deal with that afterwards. I'm conscious of time. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Ollie. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys.
Great presentation as always. So at this point, I would love to invite Katie Wynn from Africa and Beyond to share her screen.
Hi, Katie.
Good morning, Katie.
Hi, Katie.
Unmute me. I've unmuted myself. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing?
Good. Very
nice
good.
to see you all. I wish it was all in person.
Well, this is the closest we're going to get. So
I know.